Michelle Bullock has flagged the current rate-cutting cycle could be over, as economists now forecast the next move will be up. Joining us is the Shadow Treasurer, Ted O'Brien. Ted, thanks for your time, as always, this morning, so borrowers can forget about near-term help. The RBA forecasts are all dripping in red ink, as Cam Redden showed us just a moment ago. What are your thoughts on all of that this morning?
Well, I really put this, Pete, down to what's now being referred to as the Jimflation effect. Jimflation, of course, meaning Jim Chalmers inflation. This is a reflection of government spending out of control. The more government pours money into the economy, the more it's just driving prices up. The higher the prices, the higher inflation, the less wriggle room for the Reserve Bank to provide relief to mortgage holders. So the average mortgage holder is now paying $1,800 more in interest every single month compared to when the coalition was in government. So it's bad news yesterday, but it's all about the consequences of a government that has a spending spree.
There have been 3 rate cuts, though, which has taken pressure off mortgage holders. So how do you explain that?
There has been, and there's also been 12 rate increases. And this is the problem. We have really seen interest rates remain higher for longer in Australia. And what explains that is the government spending spree. And unless the government gets its spending under control, then there's no hope moving forward. I mean, we heard from the Governor yesterday, and she made it very clear that if you look even into next year, headline inflation will peak around 3.7%. Now, what's the RBA aiming for? What do they want? 2.5%. It's going to peak at 3.7% next year. This is the problem. It's all about inflation. It's all about Jim Chalmers. It's all about the Jimflation effect.
Did the RBA get the last cut call wrong?
Oh, look, I've never tried to judge the RBA, their own decisions. They're an independent body. They've got to make do with the data they have in front of them. I think the big challenge for them is, on one hand, you have the Treasurer who has his foot on the accelerator and just spending. Right. And then the RBA is sort of pulling the reins back. And this is difficult because, you know, one runs fiscal policy, the other monetary policy. Ideally, those two policies run in the same direction. They've been running in different directions, and that makes it a lot harder for the RBA to get things right.
So just a couple of points, Ted. So, I mean, looking at the target range, as Paul Bloxham pointed out just a moment ago, we are kind of still within that, though. It's just, yes, it's at the top end of that. The trend is heading up, but we're still within that target band. And I'm just looking at some other nations. 3.75 to 4%, that's the cash rate in the US, 4% in the UK. So comparatively, are we doing all right?
No, we're not, unfortunately, Pete. And we're, in fact, outside of the band, to be clear. So they aim for 2.5, but there's a band between 2
I mean, I guess it depends what measure you're looking at, though.
Well, I'm looking at the RBA's measure, which is the measure that counts, right? Because they're the ones who make the decision on the interest rate cuts. The target is 2.5. They talk about a band between 2 and 3. We've now come in above that target, and we're going in the wrong direction. And this is the problem. Now, there's no doubt that Australia is the greatest country in the world. You wouldn't want to live anywhere else, right? And there are a lot of fundamentals that we have going well in Australia. But that's not due to the Albanese government, and this is the point. We have everything that is needed to have an economy that is growing, an economy that's lifting all boats, helping households, helping businesses, helping industry. But this government's policy suite is holding us back as a country and hurting families, and we're seeing it through the interest rate decisions.
Well, further to that, and again, as Paul pointed out on this show a moment ago, he said the trend highlights the need now for tax reform to tackle regulation and increase productivity, which has been dormant for a decade now. So how would you go about doing that as a first step?
Well, number one, the government should be introducing quantifiable fiscal rules to control the spending in its budget. Number two, it should be looking at holistic tax reform, in particular looking at reducing, alleviating the personal income taxes. The plan of the government is to rely on taxing Australian workers to get the budget back into balance, taxing them far more than what they do today. Indeed, regulation is a killer. This government has introduced 5,000 additional pieces of regulation in their first term of government. Regulation needs to be dealt with. Energy prices is crippling industry, businesses, which is why you can't find a smelter now which is not calling out for government funding. I mean, we have a real issue when a government, through its own policies, is making Australia poorer and weaker and more dependent on foreign supply chains.
Have those bailouts got to stop?
At this stage, they can't stop because this government is just ruining the energy market, Pete. Let's not forget it's the government who promised a $275 reduction in household power bills. Households are paying now well over $1,000 more. And if you think about that, for businesses and industry, what that has done to their own P&Ls, it is making it so much more difficult for businesses to stay afloat. Those energy-intensive companies are looking at leaving our shores, and they are saying it is because of the cost of energy. That is on the government, because the government is trying to revolutionise energy in this country. In doing so, it is failing, and Australians are paying